The following presentation of the Eric McKenna Project is sponsored by no one.
Hello, you're listening to the Eric McKenna Project.
We are at the beginning of 2022. Obviously,
it's crazy.
But you've seen a lot of growth in your business last year, right?
Yeah, man. Since the pandemic started, that's what changed everything for us.
It's a positive, right?
Yeah, no, I look at it from a standpoint, we had to make a decision when the pandemic first started, and we were still, we were 4 years in at that point, so we were still grinding it out every single day, was just trying to get something rolling and trying to get the business to a point of like, hey, paying off debt, getting the debt down, hiring people, expanding, making our manufacturing better, all those things. And then, with the mask business we launched, we were one of the first companies in the country to do that. And that spiraled us financially in a situation to pay some debt off, to put money away, to live off of that without any stress. So for the first time in my journey, that was the first time financially I didn't have to worry about the dollar. And then as soon as that started shifting, the right people started coming into our life from a team perspective, friend perspective, supporters of our business perspective. And then, man, ever since then, you get through the pandemic, then Pittsburgh or Pennsylvania finally opened up in June, July of
June or July,
of 2021. And then we had a great month. And then it got better, and then Q4 we just kind of blew it out of the water, and it was pretty surreal to see, like, holy shit, this worked. Like 6 years, this finally got to that point of we're here now. How high can we take this?
I want to talk a little bit about courage within the entrepreneurial journey. I know when you say fear and courage and so forth, it's kind of natural. People say, oh, well, yeah, of course there's first fear of change and all that, but I think it's beyond that. I think it's about, the fear I'm talking about is the real fear of, like, this is my entire being, this is my well-being, this is my way to earn money, to survive, to feed myself, and all of that is hanging in the balance. That kind of fear is a little different than making the right car choice,
right,
or buying the right peanut butter at the store. It's a different thing.
Yeah,
that most people will never be in a position to have to make those kind of decisions. It's pretty weighty, and I think that knowing a little bit about your story from our prior talk, I know that you've had those moments. That fear is real. Am I right? Am I right?
It's the ultimate character tester, builder, whatever you want to call it. It's when you have to make a decision, hey, I need to start liquidating assets, or I need to, every other month I was like, all right, time to put my house on the market, time to go move into a downsized, get rid of this, sell this. Do I sell my van? Do I sell this? And for 3.5 to 4.5, well, probably 4.5 years, it was constantly trying to figure out, what do I do to allow myself to breathe for 30 more days. So for me, it was 30 days at a time. And I could tell you 15 to 20 times I've called friends of mine like, hey, I think it's time to put my house on the market. What do you think I can get for it? Knowing deep down I didn't want to do that, but if it got dark enough, I at least had equity into my house that I could pull that, and then I knew that would buy me another 12 months, another 2 years, or whatever it would be, without really having to stress. So that was kind of like the saving grace on that side of it, from the mentality standpoint, was I always had something else I could do. And I could have, I could have called my parents for help. It wasn't my thing. When we started the business, I didn't see eye to eye with my folks. So I didn't want to, it was an ego thing. I didn't want to ask them for help.
Right.
And anybody that I did ask for help, I wouldn't take anything for free. I wanted it to be a business transaction,
right.
Whether it was a loan, whether it was whatever. I want to pay you back because I want to do this the right way from the beginning to the end. But the biggest thing for me was I always knew I could figure it out. I didn't know if that was 10 years, 20 years, 5 years, 12 months, whatever it would be. I just knew that if I kept working hard and I kept treating people well, doing what's right, doing all those things, that was a must. And then I would look at the numbers. Hey, we're growing. We're not making much money because I was making mistakes. The margins weren't where I thought they were. I didn't know the numbers.
Yeah, free work intrinsically with what you do, right?
Yeah, for sure. And so it was just, a lot of it was just kind of balancing, and also the currency that I had in the beginning, and I might have talked about this before, was that relationship currency. So when times are tough and things are really, really dark for you, and someone says, man, that's the best suit I ever had, or that's the best jacket I've ever had, or the best whatever, that's enough for me to say, all right, I'm doing this for the right reason.
Validation.
Yeah. And hey, keep going, because if one person thinks that, and they're coming from a competitor of mine, or they're just a suit wearer in general, and they're making that type of statement, that means there's other people out there that could feel the same way.
100%. Financial stress is interesting because when you hear folks that are living paycheck to paycheck, there's a level of stress involved with that. With an entrepreneur, it's much worse, but I think it's not fully understood. When you're paycheck to paycheck, at least you reasonably know that you're on some kind of salary or some kind of wage arrangement. There's a paycheck coming.
Yep.
You may not have much left at the end, but there's something there. With entrepreneur, there's no financial stress. I mean, when you say you're making it 30 days in a chunk, because I was there in the beginning of the guitar business, I remember 30 days at a chunk is way more different, because I had lived paycheck to paycheck years prior. Much different.
Yeah. It's a look, even this month, I mean, it's the 12th, 13th, whatever, January, something, and I don't know what business is coming in this month. I don't know what business is coming in next month. I don't know. We could sell nothing next month, and but we've built up a reputation enough. We do the marketing, the advertising, so now we're at a point where we can have a pretty good gauge of what's happening. So I have zero fear of what's coming next month. It's just, how do we make it better? But in the beginning, it's I'm fighting tooth and nail to just sell one suit at a time, and it's a mental battle. It's a really, really difficult mental battle to have, because everything is on you. Everything. Doesn't matter what the teammates are doing. Doesn't matter how much money's in your account. Doesn't matter what obstacles you have coming up. You are the one that the decisions that you make
are your names on it.
Yeah. It's going to steer the ship.
Yeah, and that's until I always say, if somebody does not have an understanding of entrepreneurship, that's fine, because it's definitely not for everybody. It's a choice, but until you have your name and your reputation on your livelihood, unless you're doing that, you really don't understand.
Yeah.
You try to explain it, but until, I mean, it's a completely different thing.
Yeah, that's why, like, my thing is, I love entrepreneurs. I just naturally gravitate towards them. There's the respect that you have for somebody without knowing the day-to-day of what they go through, without knowing their personal situation, their business situation, whatever it may be. There's some feeling that you get that you can't explain, and maybe it's because I've lived this situation before and I can put myself in their shoes and I understand the frustrations, because those are things you don't learn in life unless you do those. School can't teach you entrepreneurship. Life can teach you entrepreneurship, and that's powerful, because
we don't even try anymore. I mean, I remember when I was younger, there was a JA, Junior Achievement. I don't even know if that stuff even exists anymore.
Yeah, I think they're still around. I don't know anything about them. I've heard the name been brought up before, and I don't know what they do, don't know anything about them. But, when you go through life, schooling's so traditional, like, this is what you do, this is what you do. Then the older you get, it's like, all right, you got to get down this path that everybody else is doing more and more, instead of dream and create your own thing and build something on your own. So we're groomed to not think the way that entrepreneurs think. Society pushes you to not be that way.
Good point. Very good point.
Right? It's as you get older, like, you're like, no, this is the path you're supposed to go to college. Then you start out at this corporation and you put your name on their name on your resume, and that's a resume builder. Then you hope to use that to leverage getting in front of another company. Then you could use their name as your resume builder. And
that's the path.
That's the path. And it's like,
that's the path.
I'll tell you, I think about this all the time. I think the biggest collapse that we're going to have at some point is the college education system that we have. I think it's a complete joke. And the things that they don't teach you about life is just mind blowing to me. And same thing with high school. Our education
system. It should start there, really, right?
Yeah. I mean, even balancing checkbooks. Like, how much did you talk about that in school? Not much at all. Just simple things of life and managing and do this. But, if you look at the way colleges are going, and you $50,000 a year, $70,000 a year, I mean, you're in debt for 40 years, 35 years.
And the system is okay with that.
Yeah, they want it. Hey, keep feeding me. People are making a lot of money for this, a lot of money.
Yeah, the whole college system is going to break down at some point in time. And the reality of it is, for as important as college education can be in society, what's way more important is traditional grade school, middle school, and high school in terms of formulating and building our society. That's way more important than secondary education. It just is, but we don't put the emphasis there. Yeah,
I think, we're at a weird time where I think certain influential people like Gary V's of the world, I think the access to data and information is happening at a younger age. The shows like Shark Tank, the popularity of that for 20 years or so.
It's almost 20 years now.
Yeah, it's been a long time. And so you look at things like that, those to me are great indicators of change for society, because everybody can be influenced, and we live in a world where it's like, hey, I want to learn what I want to learn, and you start naturally gravitating towards things that are happening. And the younger generations, I do truly think that they're going to come up and really change the way things are. The opportunities.
The structure, you mean?
Structure. Yeah. I think, I think at some point you're just too saturated with information on what's out there and what you could potentially do. And the problem with social media is there's a lot of bullshit and a lot of fake stuff, and so you can get bamboozled or fooled in some capacity. But when you look at the authentic people that are the builders, the Elon Musks of the world that are truly changing and revolutionizing the way the world's done, they're hitting enough people, I think, where at some point there's going to be some form of a shift. Now, that's probably 10% of the population or 5% of the population.
Right.
The majority is still going to always be the majority.
Talk a little bit about the way the markets are changing for even in your industry, because traditional clothing industry, I would imagine if you were to sit down with, if you were to get an audience, I don't know, with Ralph Lauren, and you would sit and talk to him and just talk about even things like distribution and all that, there's got to be a world of difference from the 70s and 80s and 90s compared to how it's done today. Is it more, is in your business more direct to the client? Is there more of that as opposed to a typical retail structure?
Yeah, I think the big thing is you're going to see some changes in purchasing clothing that are going to be mind blowing. And Amazon's going to be the one that probably changes. They're already working on some interesting things where, hey, we're going to, and there's some subscription services that do this, but hey, we're going to send you a bunch of stuff, and whatever you don't send, you keep. That type of thing's already happening.
I've seen that. But what do you personally think about that?
It's not my scene right now. I don't know. I'm starting to do everything on Amazon, which I wasn't that way before. I'm starting to buy groceries online now.
Me as well.
And those were things that I was like, I like going to do this. But then when you realize the time value that you save, that's where when you understand time, when you understand the value of your minutes and your hours throughout the day and what you can accomplish by focusing that on something else, or if you just want to just sit there for an hour and not do anything instead of go get groceries, that's a mental rewind for me, or a reset for me. So there's different ways that I'm now living my life. There's something with Amazon where they're doing I wish I remember, Derek was telling me about this the other day, but they're doing something where they're totally changing the way that you can pay for clothing as well. And I shame on me for not knowing that off the top of my mind, but it was something I wanted to bring up to you. But there,
you make a monthly subscription thing?
No, it's shit.
That's all right.
Yeah, I'll think of it by the end of the episode, and we could revisit that. But they're doing something that we try for our marketing business that I have. We're trying to get a couple of our clothing companies to embrace this.
Got it.
And they're a little hesitant. They're older people that are just kind of like, hey, we like what we're doing. But if Amazon's on the front of it, it's going to be something interesting. I wish I remember what that was right now, but I'll think of it by the end of the show for sure.
If you were doing what you're doing, let's say in the 70s, obviously you're not there, but just from what you know, how the industry's grown, how would it look distribution wise? Like, how would you reach the client? You couldn't use the same, obviously you didn't have the same technology, but or would the distribution be different?
No,
the levels of structure and so forth?
Well, I think you're seeing a lot more direct to consumer, right? You're cutting out a lot of people in today's world. So like we had an opportunity earlier in this year. No, excuse me. It's only January. It was about a month ago. So right before Christmas, I had an opportunity to send a tech pack to Nordstrom Rack, and they wanted me to put together some stuff it's just to start out with simplified suits. We had to sell a very inexpensive suit. I think the price point we had to hit was around $300. Okay. Which we don't come anywhere close on that now.
Right.
And look, when you go to those big box stores, you don't have any control. You sign up because you want to leverage their name for the marketing, the exposure, and all that stuff. Then you have buyback clauses. If that product doesn't land on the docks of Nordstrom Rack, and this isn't for them specifically, this is just the overall flow, then you're penalized. Then you have to buy stuff back if it doesn't sell.
Right.
But there's a lot of negotiation that can go in that. But when you're a small player, you don't have any negotiation.
They have the hammer.
Yeah. So I think that's the businesses are now having far more control of how they operate than they've ever had in the past. And that's the beauty of this. That's what's opening the opportunity for other people to come in, smaller brands and smaller businesses, to really change the way things are going. I think there's also a shift from a consumer psychological standpoint where they want to feel a part of a brand and they want to feel like they have more power, because it's like everybody wants to be an influencer in today's world. If I could tag a clothing company, I can tag a brand and get a response, and they reshare that, or they comment, or they, whatever it may be, that makes you feel.
Well, you get a client forever if you do that.
Yeah. It's the engagement. People just want to be treated well.
Absolutely.
That's all it comes down to, is just taking care of people. But I think that's the fun part for not even just clothing, but any product in today's world. You save X amount on margin by not having distribution somewhere else, and when you could go directly to that consumer, man, you're in a great spot.
Yeah, and I think social media, I think, exacerbated it, but I think it did start like in '95-ish with the web. When the web started, and that ability, that communicative ability for everybody to be able to reach out and touch somebody at a different level potentially in the process that they could never reach before.
Yeah.
The process started to kind of like wither away. And I saw it in the guitar thing, David, because you had these companies that had the manufacturer, then they had their dealer network, or they had distributor, then they had, from there they had their dealer network, and then you had, and there was these rigid controls put in place that if you're a consumer, you just couldn't call the big company and buy directly. Now, if they thought that through, there could have been a way to make it all work.
Yeah,
keep the dealer network, but also have a direct. But there was that stodgy way of doing American business, which I think is kind of like going away.
Yeah,
if it hasn't already.
Well, I think too, you look at some of the big stores like Blockbuster when they were around. Toys R Us was one of the more recent ones that got wiped out.
Right.
But look, if you don't change and you don't open your eyes to what's happening from a technology standpoint, from a societal standpoint, that's just with anything, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
And it's more apparent than ever that you need to change the way you operate in today's world. You just have to. And you have to constantly be thinking and brainstorming on, how can I be different? What can I do to be different? How can I separate myself from the thousands of other clothing companies in the country and the world and all that other stuff? And if you're not on top of being unique and be different, then good luck. You may be okay and you may survive and have an average whatever, but if you want to really take it to the next level and grow and put yourself in a different situation, the ideas can never stop flowing. They won't always be good. I could tell you right now, I have some stupid ideas. And my business partners Derek and Chris on the marketing side, you know, we work really well because Derek is completely opposite of me.
Right.
We butt heads a lot.
Yeah.
But I need that. And then Chris is kind of the marriage between us.
Got it.
He's got the creative mind, so he understands where I'm coming from, but he also has the analytics side as well because of his background in the creative space.
Yeah.
But Derek and I are good for one or two big conversations. Sometimes it gets a little dicey, but we understand who we are, and we always talk through it at the end. But if you don't have somebody throwing out crazy ideas and thinking truly outside the box to challenge everything else, we would have never sold masks as one of the first companies in the country to do that.
That had to be a little surreal, right?
I wanted to not to dive into everything happening with pharma and all
that. That's what we do, man. Go ahead.
Here's how I know there's other shit going on. When we sold our masks, we did about $1.8 million. Absolutely incredible. There was a point where I would wake up 3 a.m. just watching my phone. Ding, 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 ding. $9 at a time, $10 at a time, $50 at a time. I mean, one day we did $120,000 in sales in 24 hours. That is an addicting adrenaline. Mm-hmm. You know, we got shut down by Facebook. We got shut down by PayPal. PayPal held $90,000 of ours. We started seeing how these big companies have power. Then they started our return on investment or return on ad spend went from 10x to 8x to 7x to 5x to 2x. Obviously, more competitors coming in.
Sure.
But Facebook shut us down 5, 6, 10 times. So
interesting.
I started seeing those things. But me being the small entrepreneurial business person in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, at one point I remember saying, I don't want people to get sick and I don't want people to die, but I hope these masks are around for a long time if this is going to continue. So I couldn't imagine if that were tens of millions of dollars or billions of dollars happening. Human nature, man, is just, hey, we want more. We want more.
Yeah.
And, you know, there was a time where I was like, man, like, I'm okay with this if this lasts another year or this lasts another 2 years. Let me make my money and then let me get out.
Right.
You know, and so we shut down pretty early because everybody else was popping up and doing different things. But that was a very big aha moment for me from a standpoint of like, all right, this shit is addicting. This shit is powerful. But if I feel this way, what do these other people feel?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a really good point.
It was the biggest adrenaline rush I've ever had in my professional career.
I can imagine because the sales were coming so fast.
It was uncontrollable. For the first 60 days was out of control. And then we went through the shutdowns waiting for product to come in. We were getting harassed all the time because, you know, we didn't know how long it was going to take to get the masks in. It took 3 weeks instead of 10 days. You know, then you get all these, hey, you're a piece of shit, you're a scammer, blah, blah, blah. So we had to go into ultra defensive mode and really strategize, and customer service is what we had to ramp up. Answer every question, answer every call, answer every comment, and explain our situation.
Was there problems with the manufacturer and the distribution because of COVID at that time, or that had not happened yet?
No, we've not experienced any issues on our manufacturing side at all through COVID, thankfully.
Okay.
We're tucked away in a small town in Thailand, so we're in a really safe environment. Majority of it is all family that works at our place. Got it. It's a really great facility that we have. So that's never been an issue. I don't know. I think
so you're just not seeing distribution issues right now.
We have none.
Okay.
You know, maybe a day or two longer in shipping. You know, from we air freight everything in, so we're not having the port issues.
Right.
You know, so from our standpoint, the distribution was fine. The problem we ran into was I came up with the idea to sell masks on a Friday, and we launched 24 hours later on a Saturday without knowing how to manufacture. I knew we would figure it out. We had no clue what to do. No clue.
I knew there was a reason why I could relate to you. Yeah. Running by to see your pants.
I called, I remember, and Chris always talks about this too. I called those guys, and it was a Friday at like 2:00. I was like, hey, we need to have a conversation. And Chris pulled over on the side of the highway, and he's pulling out his laptop. And this is where me and Derek butt heads, but this was the one time Derek was like, all right, let's give this a try.
Right.
So they both and I don't build the websites. I don't do that stuff. So I knew those guys were in for a long night. But 24 hours, we built a website, designed everything, set up the metrics for everything, Facebook pixeling, the targeting, the advertising. And then 12 o'clock noon the next day, we launched our mask business, made one post. It was shared about 110 times or something like that. And the first day we did $52,000 or $56,000 in sales. And we were like, holy shit, we don't know what's about to happen. It was pretty wild. And that was with no marketing, no advertising.
So you designed this mask, something you'd never designed before.
Ever.
Like, so how did you know how it fit? How did you know what you wanted?
Yeah, so we basically the reason we dove into this was because we had all this excess shirt material, the rolls and bundles of shirts that we had already purchased. And then, I think April of 2020, we did, in the suit business, we did $1,200 in sales. And I was like, we're fucked. We're like, we have to do something. We went from 6 figures a month down to $1,200, which is a substantial drop, obviously. So at that point, we're like, all right, we just got to figure it out. So what we did was we worked with our manufacturing. We had a big, massive call in that evening. So during the day, we had a conversation with our partners, and we said, hey, let's talk about this. And then in the evening, we brought our tailoring team involved. We had a big Zoom session on that, and we just kind of strategized. So they were cranking them out as we were on the call, trying them on, doing that other stuff to see the fit, see the idea. And we were still one of the only mask companies that kind of did a bridge in the center of the nose. And the way that it sat, it actually kept the mask away from your face, which was awesome. So we had a lot of accolades from the standpoint of, hey, these were the most comfortable masks we ever had. And we made them 3-layer. So the test where you blow through it and you can't blow out a candle, we hit all those things. And at that point, it was, only wear an N95, can't wear an N95, wear this, wear that. So, we were kind of all over the place trying to figure out what route we can go, but we knew we just had to put something out. It didn't matter, because at that point we didn't know if you were going to die the minute you inhaled something. It was terrifying for everybody.
Yeah, the beginning was the lack of information, the lack of good, credible information was just, and again, now it comes down, there's all this information. Now what's real and what's not real, and then pick a side to believe. So the consumer's still vetting all that out. But at that time, it was pretty scary.
Yeah. Even 30, 60 days in, you still didn't know, right? Nobody really knew what was happening. I remember traveling. I was the week before the shutdown, so March 13th, I think, was the Friday of 2020 where it shut down. Okay. The week before that, Sunday night, I was in Washington, D.C. for a WWE event. I was doing something for The Undertaker, I think, for his final send-off. The next night, I had fly to Los Angeles, so I had to do something at Capitol Records. I had a dinner in Los Angeles on a Tuesday night, so I was there for a day and a half, 2 days. Then I flew from there to Miami, doing some stuff in Miami, and then Friday was the shutdown. So I was in three airports in 3 different parts of the country. And what was really kind of unique or surreal about that was the eeriness of it at that point. Now you travel in the airport, it's like nothing, nobody gives a shit. Right. But like back then, man, you looking around at people as you walk by, like, stay the hell away from me. Like, does this person have this? It was very like terrifying in a sense.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it played with your mind. Yeah. In the beginning, I mean, let's go back there for a second. I remember hearing things about something coming, it was on its way here, but it's not really real until it's in your backyard.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I kept saying to myself, well, they might restrict a couple things, like the bird flu from, I guess, N1, H1, or H1N1.
H1N1.
So I figured maybe there'll be pockets of this stuff, but in my head, I remember one evening just sitting around going, "There's just no way." Could you imagine if they actually shut down society? I mean, like that's unfathomable. That can't be done. Right. This is America. I mean, maybe you can shut down, I don't know, some European bloc nation or something, but this is America. It's not going to happen. And it happened. Yep. I mean, I'm still sitting here today looking back on it, can't believe, we talked off air a little bit, I cannot believe that actually happened. They shut down society. But
it was also like a half-ass shutdown too, was the problem. You're still going to allow airlines to operate. You're still going to allow the big box stores to operate. That's where I had a really difficult time with accepting that. It was like, fuck off. Don't do that to us.
Well, the small business just took it on the chin for, like, the mom and pop hardware store down the street from where we are couldn't open.
Nope.
To sell the same things that Walmart or Home Depot were. That there's something intrinsically very disturbing about that.
Look, if you wanna shut everything down, including the airlines, including the banks. Tell the banks, hey, there's no mortgage due, there's no credit card due. You pause this thing for 30 days. And wipe everything out at that point. If that's the route you're going to go, do it the right way.
Probably should have done.
Don't pick and choose. I get very fired up about this because I've seen friends. Look, I just went through 5 years of hell to get stable, to then see other businesses get wiped off the face of the earth purely because they just were in business the wrong time, and depending on what dictator at that point was saying in what region, hey, you can or can't operate this way. And at that point, I was traveling back and forth from Florida every other week. So in the morning, I'd be in Pittsburgh, and I'd see, for a couple of days, and I'd see how Pittsburgh operates. Next thing you know, I'm in Florida, and not only is it a completely different world at that point, but nothing was going on. It was like it wasn't happening. People didn't give a shit about anything then. It was so crazy to me. I mean, you go from Pittsburgh where there was nothing happening, then I'd go to Miami or Tampa or wherever it was, and then there's traffic, and I'm like, traffic? I could get out to the airport in 7 minutes from Mount Washington now. How am I here sitting in rush hour traffic? This doesn't make sense. And that was kind of the aha moment. That's why, I get frustrated with certain people.
Like two countries almost.
It was two completely different lives. And that's the disappointing part. Is like I firsthand got to see what was actually happening. I firsthand was living in two different worlds almost at the same time. Mm-hmm. And operating. And you see there were businesses thriving there. And then you come home, sign on the door, shut down, we're not opening again. It's just heartbreaking, man, because when you put your heart and soul into something and you really put every ounce of love and passion into building something, and the situation is that you didn't do anything wrong to lose. That's sad.
It's sad, and I don't like the word fair, but you almost are inclined to say that is, if you're going to use the word fair, that's probably the most unfair circumstance for an entrepreneur. When you're shut down and basically destroyed at absolutely no fault of your own.
Yeah.
Not even it isn't because of your own bad decisions or own bad marketing choices. You were shut down because of external forces. Yeah. And it was imposed. It wasn't like it was a natural disaster where a tornado blew through. Yep. So to equate the tornado ravishing your building to the pandemic, it's a different thing. You were instructed by another human that you cannot operate.
Who knows nothing about your business, who knows nothing about how you operate, who knows nothing about how to run your business, are saying that. And then the bigger problem with that is when all this help, quote, starts coming in from the government, and then Central Catholic gets $2 million, but the kids are still in tuition, they're still paying their thing. The female high school, whatever, Sarah Catholic or whatever, the Oakland Catholic, they got 1.5 million or something like that. LA Lakers got 20 million. The Penguins.
Where did the money go?
But also, like, it was so hard for every other business to get money, and then they would run out of money. Like, how does that work? Like, who's orchestrating this? Who's deciding this? What illogical idiot is making these decisions? It's mind blowing.
Yeah, it also exposed something on the broader point to me, and that was that we just don't have a plan to really work together as a country when there's a crisis. Like, we've never been attacked on our soil outside of Pearl Harbor, right? Going back to the Revolutionary War. Mm-hmm. Probably a good thing.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, we just did not, we failed. We failed at working together to solve a problem because it was just pockets of dysfunction all around with no cohesive correction.
Yeah. Yeah. Very little guidance, very little help, very little empathy.
Empathy's a great word.
I think that was the problem with this. And look, we can dive into a million other things, and I think our political system is whacked out of its mind. Yep. And the way that they operate is such an old school mentality that hasn't changed in hundreds of years.
Which makes being an entrepreneur and any entrepreneurial success even more impressive. If you can do it in America, there's a lot of opportunity, but there's also a lot of obstacles which were very made aware during the pandemic.
Yeah. This if you couldn't if you couldn't learn something through the last 2 years, or better yourself in some capacity, and you just let this happen for you for 2 years, I feel bad for you.
Which is a lot of America, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people used it as hey, this is either my time out or I can relax, which is fine. I did that for the first 10 days, before we started doing what we were doing. But there was so much opportunity to separate from people over the last 2 years. Even if it's just bettering yourself as a person and picking up an instrument and learning something,
Absolutely.
or taking a cooking class and bettering yourself from that capacity. It's not always about making money or building a business. A lot of it's about improving yourself as a person, and just wanting to become a better version of who you are. Be a better mother, a better father, a better husband, brother, boyfriend, whatever it may be. You had every opportunity to do that, and I think so many people, just as lazy Americans or lazy people in general, did not take advantage of that. And I think this also opened up the eyes to a lot of people to see how much control you can have of your own life if you are more of an entrepreneurial spirited person, that there's a lot less competition than you realize. I think that's the interesting side.
Yeah, that's a very good observation. I would agree. I felt that exact way 20 years ago, and the web was new, and I think it was being poo-pooed by a lot of people, especially traditional marketing people. But I said, if you have just a little bit of drive and a little bit of creativity, even in spite of your own ineptitude, if you keep working at it, you'll be a success. I mean, which is, I don't know what that says, but oftentimes, would you not agree, if you had the intestinal fortitude to gut it through, sometimes the actual work and the progress can even make a bad idea successful.
Yeah, I think look, if you could sell anything in America could be sold. That's the world we live in. And you hope that the things that are being sold, push, services, product, whatever it is, are good.
There's value,
credible, or a true want to those, right? So yeah, you could take a bad idea or a bad product and brand it the right way, market it the right way, and maybe it's good to you and just somebody else might find it worthless, but there's enough people that have enough of an eclectic or different taste in product services that there's enough people out there to really feed any product that you want to sell. That's the beauty of the world as well.
I've always believed that Americans love custom things, like that look at me moment, all that. We kind of touched on that before, and I built a guitar business from the idea that if they can get a chance to get something custom, even if it's at a lower price point, because at the lower price point, guitar players, David, never could get something custom. It was kind of just off the shelf.
Right.
We brought that custom, small, short-run specialness to the lower price point. That was our niche, and it worked. It didn't seem like a very hard idea to grasp. Once I got it, it furthered my belief that Americans truly, maybe more than any other people on the planet, from my optics, really love that look at me moment, something special. They can get something special. Do you think we're still that way? Do you think we're still wired that way?
Yeah, I think human beings are wired that way, where
human beings. You don't think it's just it's an American phenomenon?
No, I would just guess human beings, and I think human beings are also the biggest piles of shit in the world in reality. Because if you look at it,
can't argue that.
Listen, if you break it down, out of all creatures in the world, you look at animals. They eat when they're hungry. They kill when they're scared or protecting something. Outside of that, leave me alone.
Yeah.
Human beings, hey, there's a snowstorm coming. Let me get every single piece of toilet paper I can get, or let me get for something in Pittsburgh.
It's going to happen this weekend.
Right? And that's the crazy thing is, for Pittsburgh, what are you going to be held up at 24 hours? Do you need all those things, right? So I truly believe that, we're, as human beings, we're mammals, animals still, right? At the end of the day, we are groomed to be greedy.
Yes.
And we are groomed to take what isn't ours. You have to learn to share, right? As look at kids that play.
Yeah.
It's my toy. That's my toy. That's my toy. Like, no. Share that with somebody else.
Right.
Those things are instilled in you throughout your life as you grow older. And hopefully. And I've seen too many people that are look at me. I'm going to screw somebody else over so I get that. I can tell you right now, when I had the decision to start a mask business, I didn't have to include Derek and Chris in that, but we went 33% on all of those because I wanted to help them and take care of them, but also I knew that if I wanted to take it as big as I could, I needed help.
Absolutely.
And also, like, why wouldn't I want to share something with my close friends who I'm in business with and all that other stuff?
Of course.
But I do just genuinely...
There's power in that.
Absolutely. Power, comfort, protection, all those things. But if you look at how, as simplified as it is, there's a snowstorm coming. And we know in Pennsylvania, in Pittsburgh specifically, how many snowstorms that we had that have lasted months? None. How many have we had that lasted weeks? None. With the blizzard of 92, 93 was...
Yeah, it's the last one. It was a couple days.
Yeah. And I think in 2008 or 2009, there was another one where we got 2 feet of snow or so.
Yeah, I remember it well. 2009, I believe.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, I get it. But
Every
3 days,
years.
2 days? That was the extent of it?
Yeah.
And we hoard things
and
like...
we know that. Like, so it isn't like we don't know
Correct.
that. We ignore it.
Yeah. I think what we're going to run into at some point is, there's obviously all these shortages of chicken and all this shit now, and groceries are having issues, and the shelves are empty everywhere. I think people are going to start having to get a little creative on the food side of things at some point. I mean, we always have shit food and junk food. It's easy to get some of those, but I do believe, because I was watching something the other day, China holds 60 or 70% of the grain, the entire grain market in the entire world, right? So there's different...
We eat too much grain anyways.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, I agree
do.
for sure. So it's like look at the way human beings operate. Look at the way the world works.
Yeah.
Look at what light has been shined through the last 2 years of the pandemic, and people need to change.
I think so. Do you think we got any hope? Do you think you're seeing any of that?
Man, I think
it's a broad question.
Yeah, I think the hope is, or the optimism of this situation is that, man, you get to control who's in your life. Mm-hmm. Right? So you get to weed out the people that don't, and there's enough people that are similar to you, me, or whoever it may be in their own how they operate their world. There's enough people that will always be similar. I just weed people out. Just get away from me. If we look at life truly that different, I don't have time.
So that's a harsh thing for anyone to go through. I've gone through, and I think most entrepreneurs end up going through a form of that in some capacity. Did you think that's part of the journey, though? I mean, to me, I think that's a necessary part of the journey. If your journey is based upon a goal of success towards your goal, that's a necessary part. And I think it's an emotionally tormenting part of it. I've been there. But I think it's also necessary.
Yeah, for sure. There's 2 types of people in the world. One, the person that always wants to learn, the person that will live till 100, and that last breath that they take, they're still trying to learn. Mm-hmm. Whether that's reading, whether that's talking to people, whether that's trying to just investigate situations or theories. Yeah. And then there's that other person that's like, hey, this is my life. This is how I was born into this world. This is how I'm supposed to operate. And this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, and then I'm going to stop doing this, and then at that point, this is the next phase of my life, and that's how it's going to go. For me, I can't even watch a movie or something that's not beneficial. I lose interest right away. Yep. I watch podcasts. I listen to podcasts. I listen to audiobooks. I'll watch.
It's called a fertile brain.
Yeah. The minute I stop learning is the minute I stop growing, and I think that's with anybody. And I'm not who I was 10 years ago. Right. So naturally, the people that I was associated with 10 years ago are distant from me now. Yeah. I still like them because I've always hung out with good people.
Of course.
But I'll be honest with you, I'm not running to call them to go do anything anytime soon. Yeah,
that's the hardest thing about, and no one tells you this when you're young, right? Or when you start an entrepreneurial journey, it isn't just your pay arrangement and your day-in-day activities that change, it's your sphere. Yeah. No one tells you that. You have to figure that out on your own. At least I had to, and that's what I'm hearing from you is you've got to. Those are hard decisions to make, but man, they're important.
Yeah, if there's nothing wrong with people that see life different. Mm-hmm. I think that's great. you have to make a decision as yourself. That's your life that you're living. We have one opportunity. We literally have one chance to operate this game of life that we're in.
No, we're aware of.
Yeah, right. I agree with you there.
Who knows? Who knows?
But in reality, what we control and what we know is what we know, from a certainty standpoint. And once you take your last breath and it's over, your life's done. And I never wanted to be that person that said, I wish I did this, or I wish I did that, or I should have did this. I've seen too many elderly people say that type of thought process, and then you start realizing, I just turned 36 in the fall, and now I'm like, all right, I'm getting up there, not from a standpoint of anything other than like life is going fast, and
it continues to go fast, my friend.
Yeah, and I don't want to live with any form of regret in my life. I just don't believe in that, and I also believe in, as you change your circles, you change as a person, and your wants and interests change. And the group of people that I have in my life now, including you and Roccos of the world, and I get so energized talking to people like you guys, because we share the same values, we share the same outlook on life. We share a lot of
part of the journey is very similar between all of us, right?
It's they're all different, but they're all the exact same, which is really, from a mentality standpoint.
No question.
And I think that's what's so rewarding, and that's why, like, when I have a Friday night or a Saturday night out, I'm not going out to a bar to hang out, and like, I want to go to a dinner and talk to somebody, or I just want to go sit somewhere and talk, or grab a cigar and talk to somebody.
But see, that's funny. Until you do it, you don't get it. But to most people, that's not the sexy way to enjoy their hard-earned Friday night.
Yeah.
And again, it's not a negative thing. It's just unless you break through that, then change that mindset, then you won't understand the joy of what you just said.
Yeah.
Going out to dinner and having that conversation, it was as opposed to numbing yourself standing at a bar with a bottle of beer in your hand,
talking about bullshit that doesn't matter.
Exactly.
And look, I don't do what you want to do. It's your
it's not a lecture.
No, it's your life, and if that's how you live your life, man, I just want you to be happy.
Yep.
And if that makes you happy, then do that all day long.
And for most people, because most people do that, there must be some kind of happiness going on, you would think, aggregately. It has to be.
I mean, I used to do, when I, my early 20s, mid 20s, even to, of course, 27, 28, I was going out all the time. I was partying, I was drinking, I was in medical sales. So it was like, I do this, come home, weekend.
Life was good.
Life was easy. It was great.
Right.
But then I just changed. And I just started looking at things a little bit differently, and I just had different wants and needs. So there's nothing wrong with anybody that wants different things than me. I don't give a shit. Do what you want to do. It's not my life. I have no say in that.
Right. I'm
just expressing how my mind works in comparison to what a lot of other people are.
Yeah.
And, I had a friend I was talking to the other day, and she was saying something like, man, it's Thursday. I can't wait till Friday, and then I get to have a 3-day of this, and it's like, all right, like, I wake up every day and it's Saturday, every single day. And that's something that I've been able to build
absolutely
through a miserable, very difficult time frame. Well,
you've paid a price for it.
Right. Yeah. And I say miserable, I mean miserably amazing, because I loved even the shitty part of going through this. But it was not easy to get here by any means. And if I wanted to take 3 months off, I could take 3 months off at this point. I don't want to, because then I would go crazy. But I wanted to put myself in a position where I can make my decisions. I can control my time. I want to start flying private at some point, not because, hey, look at me, I'm flying private, because
it's more efficient.
I don't want to go to the airport 2 hours before, sit there, wait for someone else to say, get on the plane and go here and do this. No. I want to get out of here at the time I want to get out of here, and I want to get to where I'm going at the time I want to get to where I'm going.
Yep.
And that's what I started really understanding, the value of time.
NetJet, friend.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're not there yet, but and I'll still fly commercial and all that other stuff at some point. But like, I from a mindset standpoint,
time's money.
Time is everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
It's the only thing.
Yeah.
If we just have to wrestle the money component out of the equation to understand the importance of time.
Yep.
And I only got that through age and experience.
Yeah. Well, and you look at like the tangible things we can buy and this and that, like That is so stupid and doesn't matter. Now, I like nice shit. You like nice shit. Everybody, there's certain things you like and dislike. Derek and I always joke, like he won't spend more than $40 on a pair of shoes on Amazon. And I'm like, dude, I would never do that. But that's just, we live differently.
Of course.
But I see a different value in certain things than him. So, and there's nothing wrong with the way he looks at it. There's nothing wrong the way I look at it. And again, it doesn't matter because it's my life and it's his life. So I don't give a shit what anybody else thinks of that. But the time that I have and the respect that I have for people's time, even to be here, you know, hey, like I want to be here and I want to make sure I honor your time. And I didn't want to be late because I know you have other stuff going on. And nothing frustrates me more than when somebody's late for something. And it happens. Be courteous, let somebody know. But to cancel last minute or do different stuff like that, it's like, man, I had this on my calendar for a reason. Now, if something substantial happened, I get it, but my time is valuable. And even what I said earlier was, even if I just want to sit on my ass for an hour, that's my time to do that, not to waste it somewhere else.
Yeah. Let me talk about mentors. Have you had any mentors in this business? Or are there mentors from afar? Are there designers that you admire for their journey, their story, or what you know of it? Talk about that.
Yeah, you know, when I started what really got me into the entrepreneurial mindset, because I've always had the interest in doing things on the side. I've always had side businesses that I wanted to try to grow, and that's taken me back to when I was in elementary school. I hustled candy in school. High school, I hustled different things, and like the biggest thing for me was, when I was in medical sales, I had a large territory. So there was always this windshield time of me driving from point A to point B that were usually hours, right? I covered Pennsylvania, Western New York, West Virginia, and Ohio. So, you know, I'd wake up and drive 3-4 hours to start the week. Sometimes I'd drive home that night. And what happened was I got consumed with podcasts. And over time, I started realizing, okay, I don't have any mentors. But I do, because I have direct access to successful people who are telling me their story, and I can get in front of any person I want to get in front of.
Right on.
Didn't matter who it was, didn't matter how hard it was to talk to them. I was able to have a conversation with them without having a conversation with them. And then I started realizing that over time, it was like, this person or businessman, businesswoman did it this way. Okay. Next person, they did it this way. Okay. Next person did it this way. Their story's all the same. They tried, they started, they gave it an opportunity, they risked everything, they didn't quit, they worked 7 days a week for 15, 17 hours a day for years. Right. That wasn't luck that they were successful, that was the will to accomplish something. So then for 3 years or 4 years, I was listening to podcast after podcast, and that made me more motivated. That pushed me harder, that pushed me further. And even till this day, I don't really have any mentors. I have friends and people that I respect, and I have friends and people that I want to take advice from and listen to them, but I don't listen to anybody. I hear what they have to say, I let it sit and digest, and then I ignore what they told me because it's not their world, it's my world. They truly don't know the day-to-day of what I experience or what I live. They truly don't know the decisions that I have to make, and they also don't have the pain or the understanding to make that exact decision because they're not sitting in my shoes. Correct. And I never worked for anybody in my entire life that I thought should have been my boss or leading the ship. I never had that. Didn't matter who it was. That's a shame.
That's a shame.
But I think that's also
it's motivating, I'm sure too.
Well, yeah, and I don't mean that disrespectfully because my really great the person that changed my life the most was probably my buddy Sam, who's probably 5 or 6 years older than I am. He was the one that brought me into the medical world from when I started selling high-end medical equipment, and he gave me an opportunity to work for him. That changed my life, and he was really good. He was a top rep, top manager, all that stuff, company guy. But I still was like, I could do better than him. That was always my mindset. So he was a great person, and he would lead a lot of great people. So it was more along the lines of that type of mentality. And I just always felt like, I see you're doing this, you're leading me, but I could do that.
So the production or results of others were never intimidating to you?
Never. No, the one big wow factor in my life was when I went to a conference in Orlando in 2000, and it had to be like 2013 when I started this job I'm talking about. And I went to a conference, and I met the entire team, at an ophthalmology conference. So it was our biggest conference of the year. Some of the best sales reps, best surgeons, all that stuff were all there. And I walk into this room and there was an aura about everybody that I worked with. You know, you guys making $1 million a year, selling medical equipment, $500,000 a year. And I just came from the world of making $90,000, $100,000. So it was like, holy shit, this is a whole different caliber of person. That was a pretty like, all right, I'm proud to be here type moment. But even then, it still wasn't like, I was like, all right, that dude just has a little bit more experience than me. He's been here 10 years. I'll be there, so it's no big deal. So I never really had a mentor from any standpoint at all in my life. My dad would be, I would say he would be my biggest mentor from a standpoint of like, and my mom, but building the foundation of who you are as a person, building the foundation of who you are as a man, how you're supposed to operate in society. Hey, if you're out to a restaurant, you know, and I'm sitting down and you're in a lobby and waiting to get seated and there's an elderly lady, stand up. If there's a woman there, stand up, let that person sit. Yeah, I used to take the trolley in from when I started in college. I was at Federated Investors when I was like 22, 23, and I was the first stop on the trolley when I lived at home. And by the time, even though I would get on first, by the time I got to downtown Pittsburgh, I was always standing because I always gave my seat up.
Right.
When I was a kid, I wasn't allowed to have a hat on at the dinner table. When we went out to a restaurant, no. When I was a kid, I had to have a napkin on my lap all the time. When I was a kid, I always had to have a handkerchief in my back pocket all the time. Didn't matter what. I hated it. It was like I had, you know, whatever. I hated every aspect of it. But my dad never stopped pushing the pedal on, hey, these are things that you're supposed to do. And I think from a foundational standpoint, I was so fortunate to be surrounded by that type of guidance.
Got it.
Because with that type of guidance comes that type of respect, and it allows you to treat people the right way that they should be treated as well. And look, if you give up your seat for somebody else, there's no other gesture in that time frame that is the ultimate respect for
100%.
another person in that world that you're living in at that time.
100%.
And those are simple things that everybody can do.
Yeah, I call that civility, and I call that the nicety.
Yeah.
And I also call that some of the more particular things, the male-female thing, I call it chivalry, and I still believe there's a place for that in society.
Yeah. I have, for my entire life, I've never not opened the car door for somebody I'm dating. I've never not opened up the car door for somebody I take out on a date, hang out with, whatever, friend, sister, doesn't matter. If a female is with me, I will open up your car door. And it's little stuff like that. And I'm at a point when I drive around and I see someone, I'll drop the window down and say, hey, that was awesome. Like, cool, kudos to you for doing that.
It's so rare, though.
It's so rare. It's crazy. It's so crazy to see.
It's just the thing about opening a door for a woman. I mean, that was almost I remember being a young person and had my first corporate job in the 80s, and just, you know, 99% of the time it was always very appreciative, and then once in a while you get that one female liberal person who made it said that I can get my own door. Realize you're not in Kansas anymore, Eric.
But and the thing is, it's like that mindset.
That's okay, though. I mean,
it's fine, but at the end of the day, like you're just being respectful
to another human.
Yeah,
it had nothing to do with sex. This is what I was told by my elders, that this was an appropriate way to act and conduct yourself. And it gave you obviously a nice feeling to be able to be nice to somebody. And there must be something going on there. And I realized that as a younger person, that if you just do the things that the rest of society is letting ebb away, it kind of cuts your own path.
Yeah. Well, even like when I was, 15, 16, 17, even like right before I started driving, if I would take a high school date out or whatever, and we'd go to the movies, and my parents at that time had to drive you, right? My dad always made me get out of the car, go to the front door, knock on the door, have the girl come out, and we would drive that. And then when I got into, started driving and everything, that was a staple. Like you go and you
You're not rolling up on the cul-de-sac and beeping the horn and saying, come on out.
And what's really weird for me in today's world, which I get it because safety and all the other things now with the online dating and everything, what's changed a lot is like, no, I'll just meet you there. And like sometimes I'll and I don't date much, but if I do, I'll ask them, do you want me to just pick you up and we'll go somewhere? And some people are weirded out by that, which is like, I get it,
it's kind of sad in a way, though, because there was something life was a little more innocent, perceived to be possibly
for sure
back then anyways.
Yeah, and I get it. There's a lot of weirdos now that have a lot more access to people, and with social media and all that stuff. I know women get harassed, obviously, and it's funny when you watch comments and guys are just commenting. It's like, all right, settle down, buddy. But it just shows you how different the world is now than it was before.
Yeah, no question. One more question. In regards to your industry, how much do you pay attention to the competition?
Not at all.
I was really fascinated about that. I didn't think so.
I don't care what anybody else is doing, man.
I didn't think so. When I say, now let me ask you this. Does that go beyond the numbers? What about just the creativity part of it? You don't even see any of that?
No, because what I'll do is like I'll follow people that I like their style.
Okay.
So Steve Harvey, for instance, one of my favorite human beings, just from his story, his upbringing, his background, his growth, the way he carries himself. Everything I said about how my dad pushed me in that position was the same way, in my opinion, that Steve Harvey kind of operates.
Right on.
So there are people that I naturally gravitate from a standpoint of who they are, and sometimes that person that I gravitate of who they are also has really great style and taste. So there are times where I'll look at someone's outfit and I'll be like, oh, this is cool. But from a true, do I follow the Tom Fords of the world? Do I pay attention to those types of people? I'll pay attention every now and again if their name pops up and just click and look at something. But no, what they do in their life and what they've done in their life will not impact me. So again, this goes back to me never working for anybody that I ever thought should have been my boss. Is the same situation from the standpoint of this is just how my mind works. There's nobody out there that, in my opinion, has a better taste of style than I do, because it's my world and I'm styling for myself. So why do I want to look at someone else and try to mimic what they're doing? No, I want to create my own look, and I want to create my own sense of path of what direction I want to go. Now, if I see something I like, I may, anything creative has been created before. You may take an idea and tweak it a little bit or change it, or you take some influence from that. But I don't care about my competitors in Pittsburgh. I know some of the names of the people, but at the end of the day,
I didn't know that you had any in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, there's a couple that have been around for a long time. They're just old school. I just genuinely, I don't care what they're doing. I have no interest in what they're doing. Zero.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I was just wondering, because it's such a very visual field that you're in. I didn't know if it was, and we're obviously in a very visual, virtual world, and I didn't know if you just said, hey, this is a trend happening here, it's a trend happening here, how can I mesh this? Do you have ideas that wake up at night?
Yeah, I mean, every night. I mean, I have a right next to my
sketch pad or something.
No, just my phone. I'm always waking up, putting some notes in there, doing things of that nature. I'm at a spot where I love my late nights. I just love it. It's the sense of calm. It's the eeriness of this is 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock on a Tuesday, and I'm up working, or I'm up just sitting there watching a podcast or thinking. What I'm trying to right now do is shift to bring that to the morning. And I did that. Good
luck. I've tried for decades.
It's hard, man.
I'm a night person as well.
It's hard because I love the night so much. But also, I did last year switch for about a 3 to 4 month window where I was getting up at 4:45, 5 o'clock, and
just power there.
That's the mental discipline that sometimes I like to exercise to challenge myself.
Right on.
Harder in the winter and all the other shit that we're going through now. In summer makes it just that much easier. But there's a different type of feeling in the morning. There's a different type of creativity in the morning. The sense that, hey, there are people still sleeping in right now. That I'm getting a leg up on them and everything else. But it's just weird. Some days I'm up late, some days I'm up early, and I try to kind of shift those things. But my mind never shuts off, ever. I enjoy that. And there's one of my friends, we've hung out a handful of times the last couple months. We'll go grab lunch, grab dinner, catch up, coffee, whatever. And she's always saying to me, oh, you have your creative I could see it in your eyes, you're thinking, because I'll just start looking around, and like my mind starts going into that hyper creative mode. And sometimes, again, like I said, I get some out of control ideas that are just pretty wild, but I still believe I can execute them.
Right.
And then there's sometimes it's just like, hey, I just got to do this task tomorrow, or I got to do this, or I got to do that.
Okay.
So the ideas that randomly pop into my mind aren't necessarily just a creative. They're, how do I move the business forward, or what can I do that's better in my life or for the business?
Where do you stand with the ready-made
Well, yeah,
part of your business?
So we pumped the brakes on that still. We did that during COVID. It's just kind of, hey, we got to figure something out. But we're so busy with the other side of things, and I'm trying to scale and grow the business that way. We haven't really done anything. We're probably going to pull that here soon from our website, which we need to actually. And we're going to do another.
Just do pure custom?
Pure custom. I'm going to start doing some drops.
So I have a collector's item then.
Yeah.
I got two.
Yeah, no, for real. I appreciate that a ton, man.
Of course, man.
We're going to start
that material, man. I don't know where you found that material.
It's good stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're at a point where we're going to start trying to change the way we operate a little bit, meaning I want to offer higher end stuff that's not the price of custom, but the quality of custom and the materials that we use in custom. And I want to start doing like quarterly or monthly drops of product. So we may say, hey, for March, we're going to do 50 of these bomber jackets, 100 of these bomber jackets, sell those out. We're not going to make those again, and kind of create some unique stuff from that standpoint. That's kind of a big trend that's happening in fashion now, is like these product drops, and it kind of creates a community.
That's funny you said that. There was a company called Supreme.
Yeah. It's
I think
huge,
my kids were like wanting to get this
They
stuff.
do a lot of stuff like that.
And there's a drop here, Dad. And I didn't know what the hell that we were talking about. I got to get in real quick. It creates the urgency. It's a very unique marketing idea.
It's a different way to create more of a culture behind your brand. I have a good buddy that makes, he does custom shoes, sneakers, and then he also hand paints cleats and sneakers for athletes and whatnot. And he started doing his drops recently, where he makes one shoe, I think every other month or every quarter or whatever it is. And he's built a huge following for himself.
Great. Yeah,
and
it's loyalty.
Yeah. And again, it's like the fear of missing out on something.
Yeah, it's the psychology of the American buying public, and it feeds into that custom thing, that unique thing, that's quote unquote acquiring something that's special, that has meaning, because there's not that many of them out there. And it could be clothing, it could be guitar, whatever it is. That's out there, and the tap into that is big. But it didn't seem like the American business really wanted to do that on a big scale up until probably the web. Yeah,
it's just changing a lot. And even if you look at like these NFTs that are popping up now, they're built on hype right now. The majority of them are going to fail, like the vast majority. The majority of are scams, or they fail right out of the gate. They launch, and then a week later their value is like nothing. So a lot of people have to be careful with that. But because there was so much success really, really, really early on, where you could buy an NFT for $500 and it's now 400,000, 300,000.
Right.
Like that rush is probably gone for the most part. There will still be the handful of ones that make it. But the NFTs are businesses essentially. If you really look at them, there's a purpose, a mission, all that other stuff behind that. We're going to get into that space at some point. We're not there yet. But I have some really ideas on us to create a culture around our brand a little bit more, where we're going to start doing those types of projects at some point. We're not ready yet. I'm kind of studying and investigating how these things are happening and what's happening now. I want to build more of a following as well before we get things going. I want to get a little bit more savvy on the marketing side before we start incorporating these things, setting up some automation. But I have some ideas on how I want to execute this, and I do think we could do a hell of a job with them.
My friend, I really appreciate you giving me time.
Yeah, of course.
And in person, I want to say it here. I really appreciate the work that your team, DBM, Derek and Chris, and yourself. I'm excited what they're doing for my branding and everything else too. But more than anything, I appreciate the friendship. Yeah,
dude. Thank you. As I've gotten older, man, I respect people, and I've always respected people, but the personal relationship I've been able to build through this business with guys like you has been awesome, and I appreciate you and all you're doing, and
pleasure.
I love people that work hard, man. There's not a replacement or a substitute for that.
Never will be.
And then if you just keep doing your thing, it's cool to watch. So you give me some motivation as well. So I appreciate you.
Likewise. All right, talk to you soon.
Awesome, man. Anytime.
Right. All right, friends, we're out.